friends, it's Crystal from Homemaking on the Homestead, and today I have another episode of Cooking for Two, a week's worth of dinner meals that I have made for my husband and I. As in all the other recipes, the links to the recipes or the recipes themselves can be found below in the description box. So I hope this video helps give you some inspiration or new ideas for your own meal planning. So let's get cooking. On Sunday night, my husband and I decided pizza sounded good, so I got some pizza dough going and put together a little bit of pizza sauce. I like to just make my own, and I have a whole video on this that I've made, which I'll link below. While my dough was rising, I got all my veggies chopped up. It was just going to be a pretty simple pizza that night. I had some sausage, and I rolled out my pizza dough and went ahead and assembled the pizza. Turned out really good, very flavorful. We really enjoyed it, and I served that with a side salad. On Monday, I decided to fry up some pork chops. I had some pork loin chops. I have a hard time making pork chops that don't turn out tasting really dry. So my daughter had been the one that told me that if I pounded them out and cooked them in a frying pan real quickly, 3 to 4 minutes on each side. And so that's what I was trying. And so I pounded the heck out of them. I had 3 of them, so I just repeated the process. I don't actually have a meat pounder. That is a mallet of my husband's that I washed and used, and it worked just as good. So there's always options. I seasoned them. I wanted them to kind of sit with just a dry rub, so I seasoned them with salt and pepper. And I also used this garlic herb seasoning that I get from Costco, which I've really enjoyed. It doesn't have any salt, and it's very flavorful. I rubbed that into the meat and then set that aside. While that was doing its thing, I decided to cook some rice. I went to pour in a little bit of very gelled chicken broth, and obviously got too much, but it really wasn't a big deal. If you let your rice sit for a little while, it'll all absorb any extra if you just have a little bit. I seasoned it, as you can see, with the same garlic herb and some salt, and stuck it on 26 minutes to cook. I then got a salad made, just nothing fancy, just a quick little salad. At that point, it was time to cook my pork chops. I put olive oil and some butter in my frying pan and let that get really hot. And then I laid my pork chops in there. Now, I ended up cooking them about 4 minutes on each side, and for the most part, they were really good. My rice was done, and I had let it sit for a little bit, and I just released the pressure. I think that if I had to do this recipe again, which I will because they were very flavorful, but I think I'd probably do it just 3 minutes aside considering how thin they were, and it probably would have been absolutely perfect. But by far, it was the best way that I have ever cooked pork loin chops. When those were all finished, I then decided, let me add some cornbread with this meal. So I just used some packaged cornbread that I had bought at Costco, and we've really enjoyed it. I highly recommend it. And I threw that into the oven to cook, and dinner was served. This really tasted good. It was just a great blend of different flavors, and we really enjoyed it. And there was a couple pieces of pizza left over for hubby. On Tuesday, I kind of pulled out a few leftovers that I'd had in my fridge for a little while, and so I thought, well, what can I do with it? Some recent, some from the week before, like the corn on the cob. I didn't end up using everything, like the spaghetti sauce I ended up freezing, but I just decided to, and there was some cornbread too left, so I decided to heat up a frying pan with a little tiny bit of added oil. I added the sausage and some chopped onion, and I stirred that around and then threw in the rest of the rice. And I just stirred that up until it was really nice and hot. I put cheese on the top and turned the heat off and just put a pizza pan, which I use for a lid, on top so that the cheese could melt. So we ended up having the leftover pork chops, some cheesy rice, cornbread, and it was good. On Wednesday, hubby wanted to barbecue a steak, and this one was huge, so We just split that, and I made the meal extremely simple. I didn't do anything fancy. I had some chips and dip. We had been shopping that day, and so picked up some sushi and a little shrimp and shrimp cocktail sauce and some coleslaw. On Thursday, I needed to start before I began anything else and sharpen my knife. It's important if you cook a lot to make sure you keep nice sharp knives. It makes the job a whole lot easier. My plan for this night's dinner was cheeseburger soup. At least that's what I call it. So I cooked up some hamburger and some onions and mushrooms and got that nice and soft. The veggies were soft. The meat was cooked. I drained the grease, and then I added some flour. I don't really follow a recipe for this. I just kind of put it together. I had 4 cups left of my chicken broth, which had been in the refrigerator, so it was kind of gelled. I put that in there. I added about a half of a bag of the little cube type hash browns, and I had a little bit left of a package of peas and carrots in my freezer, so I just tossed those in. Wasn't sure how much, and then in the end just ended up dumping them all in because there wasn't that many in there. Stirred that up, let that simmer for just a little bit, and then seasoned it with some salt and the garlic herb seasoning and a little bit of pepper. Usually I throw the pepper on after I serve it. After it had cooked and the potatoes were all cooked and the veggies were cooked, I then added some milk, because this is a creamy, cheesy type soup. I added about a cup and a half of cheese or so. It is entirely up to you how much you want to add. Depends on how much you like, so it could be as little or as much as you want. I had a little bit of Velveeta in the refrigerator, and I wanted to use it up. This recipe does not need that. I make it many times with just the cheddar cheese, and it turns out great every single time. While that sat and the cheese is melted, I had 1 can of biscuits in my refrigerator, and so I decided I would throw those into the oven. Also, at the very end, I added a 1/4 cup of sour cream after it had just been kind of sitting there and it wasn't too hot. I just kind of threw that in and mixed that around. And this soup was so good. It was so creamy and delicious. That's how much coleslaw I had left in my refrigerator still. So I decided to just divide that between 2 bowls and using a little bit of lettuce on the bottom. So it was kind of a mixture of coleslaw and a salad. And because the coleslaw still had the dressing in it, I didn't even need to add dressing to the salad. And I topped that with some tomatoes. Biscuits were done, and it was time for us to eat. We really enjoyed this meal. It was kind of a cool evening anyway, so it was a perfect evening for soup, and this was very yummy. On Friday, I had a little bit of soup left and no salad, so I made us a nice big salad, and we just reheated the soup. And because there wasn't a huge amount left, I decided to cook up some hot dogs that I had, and that was basically just a simple, easy meal. Hot dogs, leftover soup, and a nice salad. On Saturday, my husband wanted to do some barbecued chicken legs, and so I thought some macaroni salad would sound really good with that. So I make my macaroni salad exactly the same way I make my potato salad, and I'll leave that recipe link below. The only difference is that I use about 2 cups of elbow macaroni, dry elbow macaroni that I boil and cook up. Otherwise, I do the process pretty much the same. Once the macaroni is cooked and cooled and the eggs are done, I peel those, chop those up, and then I start adding everything into the noodles. Stir that around, and then it's time to add the dressing. So it makes a super simple salad. I didn't get pictures of the barbecued chicken until it was all done, but that was our dinner. Barbecue chicken, macaroni salad, and a green salad, and we enjoyed that a lot. Thanks for watching my video. I hope it gave you some new ideas or some new inspiration for your meal planning. If you like this video, could you give it a thumbs up? That really helps me. And if you're new to this channel, welcome. And if you haven't subscribed and you like my content, would you please consider subscribing? That means a lot to me as well. All right, guys, I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.